everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, and you are watching the CD Junkie. On this episode of CD Junkie, I want to talk about a band by the name of Split Enz. This is a band from New Zealand, formed in the early 70s. One of the most amazing bands that you're ever going to encounter. Some of you are already going to go, oh yeah, I got you, or 6 months on a leaky boat, or One Step Ahead, or What's the Matter with You, anything like that. History Never Repeats. Yes, that is the same band, but that is after their sort of transition. Split Enz was a band that was always transitioning, always changing, always moving forward, but there was always something special at the core of the band. Now, back in the early days, you're looking at Tim Finn on vocals, piano, guitar, Phil Judd on vocals and guitar, Eddie Rayner on keyboards, Noel Crombie on percussion, Emmeline Crowther on drums, Jonathan Michael Chun on bass, and Wally Wilkinson on guitar. And this music, it defies categorization. This is an art rock band. Now, their early stuff has just been combined into a special 5 CD or 3 LP set called Enzcyclopedia Volumes 1 and 2. Incredible. I want to tell you that this is very much worth your time. Now, the 3 LP set has Mental Notes, Second Thoughts, and The Beginning of the Ends, which is a collection of non-album singles that came out before Mental Notes. But the CD version, which is what I'm holding right here, it contains those 3. It has a remixed version of Second Thoughts by Eddie Rayner, and it also has the regular remastered mix of Second Thoughts, and then it adds another disc of super rarities, like I think about 8 of them or so, and it's got a really nice booklet, and it's really worth your time. At the end of this video, I will feature my unboxing video that I created for this box set. But before I continue, I wanted to tell you that I got into Split Enz in about 79. I got into them with the album Frenzy because I had heard the song Icy Red. And I remembered the band existing before. I remember flipping through and seeing their records in the bins at Licorice Pizza, Tower Records, things like this back in the mid to late 70s. And then I heard Icy Red, probably on Rodney on the Rock or a station like that. And I thought, man, that's quirky. I wonder if those other albums sound like that. Well, I went out and I bought Frenzy as an import because I wanted Icy Red because I had the single already. And then when I got Frenzy, the rest of the album was very, very different from Icy Red. In my opinion, better than Icy Red. Because although it wasn't as well produced, there was so much heart in this music. And so much creativity and warmth that I fell in love with this band. And then I was moving forward with them with the release of True Colors and I Got You and Corroboree and or Waiata, depending on which country you're from, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I was also going backwards. So I was buying Mental Notes, which is the first album featured on here. There's a remastered CD version. The LP box set features a remastered vinyl version. And then that album was completely different. It's art rock. It's art rock meets prog rock meets something entirely unique. Tim Finn is my second favorite vocalist of all time after Elvis Presley. And Tim's voice dominates the album. It is one of the most beautiful instruments on the planet. Phil Judd, completely unique. Now, I have to admit, on the Mental Notes album, which is the first album, including in this box set, he had this almost like a bleat in his voice. It sounds like an affectation, or maybe he was trying to find his voice. It sounded like this prince in a castle, which was Tim Finn's voice, and then it sounded like maybe a wizard in the other steeple of this castle. Is that what you call it, steeple, or whatever those things are called? They were singing across the moat from each other. I don't know where I'm coming up with that, but they're both incredibly talented, and it was a very unique sound. There's no album like it. Absolutely no album like it. Now, I heard it 4 years after it came out, 5 years after it came out, and still even then, I don't think that the world was catching up with that album. That album was essentially a New Zealand only. I think it was probably released in Australia as well. So then what happened is the band actually went to England to work with producer Phil Manzanera from Roxy Music. Now, by this time, Wally Wilkinson was out of the band, but they had Robert Gillies playing horns. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think everyone else was there. I could be wrong, and I apologize. Check Wikipedia. And then they re-recorded some of the songs from Mental Notes and put a couple new songs or earlier songs and re-recorded those. It came up with an album that was, in my opinion, even better than Mental Notes. Now, a lot of people stick with Mental Notes because that was the first album. I think this next album, which was called Second Thoughts, was such an incredible album. Now, it's interesting. In New Zealand, Mental Notes had a cover very similar to this in terms of the full picture, but the painting was different. So I'll show you that here. And then when Second Thoughts came out a year later, it had this cover, which was a very unique and very different cover. But here's where the confusion comes in. In America, they released the Second Thoughts album, but they retitled it Mental Notes, which was already confusing because Mental Notes is the name of the first album, Second Thoughts is the name of the second album, yet the U.S. company renamed it Mental Notes. And they took the cover from Mental Notes and they added like this pink border. And since Wally Wilkinson was no longer in the band and they had changed their image, they sort of repainted everything. Like here's Robert Gillies instead of Wally Wilkinson. Phil no longer has hair. And Tim is sprouting the geometric hairstyle. Their image was just as important as the music. But since I didn't see them too much on American TV, all I had to go with was the music. And that's what enchanted me. That's a good word to use for Split Enz, enchanting. And again, some of the most unique and original material around. Now, this box set features, as I said before, the remastered Mental Notes, and it features the remastered Second Thoughts, but it also features a remixed Second Thoughts, remixed by Mr. Eddie Rayner, the keyboard player, the architect of their sound. There are dissenting voices out there that don't particularly like the remix that's featured in this new box set. What I have to say to them is nothing negative, but it's okay if they're going to remix it because they didn't erase the tapes and remove the original version from the shelves. First off, you're going to get the remastered original version of Second Thoughts here, so you can just go to the next disc. And it's just like remixing the Beatles albums and all this kind of stuff. The originals still exist. So if you don't like the remix, or you don't like the concept of remixing an album, now it's not like a dance remix, it's just that they move things around and bring things up and maybe bring up some stuff that was lost in the original mix. And so they create something that's a new experience for an old favorite, and I love it. I do. Will I listen to that over the original version? Why should I? I can have a choice. I can listen to the first 3 songs of the remix and the next 5 songs or 6 songs of the original. Doesn't matter. I get to choose what I want to listen to. And I'll listen to both of them just as much as possible because they're so fantastic. So already you get a remastered Mental Notes, you get a remastered Second Thoughts, you get a remixed Second Thoughts, then you get the beginning of the Enz, which is either remixed or remastered by Eddie Rayner. And that's featured on the 4th disc, and that features their early singles. Now, let me tell you one thing, though. Beginning of the Enz, this version here, which had the early singles, had a cover that looked like this. But there's also an album that came out, I don't even remember what year, but it came out on Chrysalis, and that's called The Beginning of the Enz, and that has this cover. And that's an entirely different album. What that second Beginning of the Enz is, it's a compilation of probably Second Thoughts and Dysrhythmia, which is not included here. That's another album. But I'm just letting you know that if you're looking for the album, The Beginning of the Enz, that comes in this box, then you're going to want to get this cover. Did I already say that Tim Finn is my second favorite vocalist of all time after Elvis Presley? If I didn't, I say it there. If I did say it, then I said it again. This album also features a 5th disc, which is rarities, a couple live demos, stuff like that. Now, here's what I found to be slightly negative about this box. They recorded Late Last Night, and they released it as a single. Then they re-recorded it for Second Thoughts. also known as mental notes in the US. I'm just trying to confuse everybody now. And that version, I could not find it on the box. Now, unfortunately, my CD player's on the blink, so that could be the late last night rough mix. Let me know in the comments below. Only other negative is track 2, Under the Wheel. It actually, this version on this box set, it plays through, and the song Under the Wheel ends, and then you hear the first half of Amy. And then when it skips to track 3, you hear the second half of Amy. A little disappointing that happened. I have a thought process whenever it comes to something like this. I don't focus on what's not here. I focus on what is here. And some people don't like the remix. I'm fine with it because I can still listen to the original. So I'm 100% happy on this. Also, I believe that some people are a little upset that there's not like a bunch of unreleased material here. From what I understand is they didn't have an excess amount of recordings. Another Great Divide is also not here. And I believe that was recorded maybe during the sessions for Second Thoughts, because it was certainly released a little bit after that or a little bit before that. But I have a feeling that they're going to be adding that to the next box. So what I'm going to do right now is I am going to play you the unboxing video that I made. This will show you everything that's inside the box, and it'll play you just little snippets of some of the songs. I hope this also encourages you to check out the album. So why don't you check this out, and I'll see you on the other side.
Walking down a road edged with roses, time stands still forever. Somewhere in the shadows hiding sits an old man laughing, but I still think of you with all alone. How can I ever repay you? Once you're doing, I still think of you with all alone. How can I ever repay you? Once you're doing. It's like a picture book that is gone away, leaving mommy in her room with another one on the way. Late last night, yeah, late last night, she told me somewhere, told me everything I need to know. Yeah, late last night. Oh, love Molly, Amy. Ooh, do you blame me? Well, you wouldn't know me from a bar, so I bought up furniture, an ornament, a rocking chair. But it's all very well to cry now. Sweet dreams every once in a while.
Well, that's it. My goal here is to inspire you to dive headfirst into Split Enz if you haven't already. Anyway, this is a band that I have loved forever. I've interviewed Neil Finn on the phone for the company I work for. But my channel is just not big enough to get any of those guys to sit down for hour chat, which is perfectly fine, because I can sit down here for a half hour to hour and talk about them. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that bell for future notifications. And until the next time, remember me. I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.